So I don't understand this. This is like one of those key things that you all have been, fighting for. Like, because the more plain you make stuff, then the more you get people's voices. The more people's voices you have, the harder they are to control.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think a lot of what we do is just what you talked about, which is identify the things that are designed to confuse people, like for political reasons, for power reasons. Remix those things, right, and give it back to community the way in which they should have it, so they can understand it and step into the space armed with information to make informed choices as to what to do. And so a lot of right, and so 200 years ago, like power was working much differently. Like,
Very much
do
so.
do this, or I'm gonna bust you in your head,
Yeah.
right? Do this, or
Yeah,
you
you
know,
trying to organize a union? We about to kill all of y'all. We gonna call the police, and
exactly,
the police will come and murder you.
straight murder you, murder
Yes,
all of you,
just
right?
for using the word
Kids
union.
and all, we getting rid
Yes,
of you, right?
yes, exactly.
Absolutely. And so it's a way to, 200 years ago, power could mobilize violence, monopolize violence in certain type of ways to push their agenda, right? Those things happen, of course, but that's not the primary way in which power is operating.
I think today, even as I add to it, I mean, you have. I don't think that, quote unquote. This is another classic debate I have with all
Hmm.
my professors, because
Yeah,
now if you go, if at least when I was going to Washington with my masters,
yeah,
especially, like, and I just got my masters like last December, so um, every class has a, like, the first chapter in all these business classes now talks about business ethics,
yeah.
and I'm sure that that's like part of, as far as me, I'm like, it's propaganda. There are no ethics in business, so they talk about what could go wrong, what could go right. And I'd always challenge every one of my professors, and they'd be like, well, we don't do these things, and we don't do those things, and we don't, Apple. And I'm like, okay, so you're telling me that Apple Computers is not just going to subcontract the contract to possibly subcontract to another subcontractor that's
Hmm.
going to get a lot of child labor to produce what they want. And it's like, technically on paper, they're no longer directly connected to the subcontractor that is hiring child labor. But
Hmm.
you better believe, if it's business, it's understood that you better do this the way that you need to do this. When I think about all the illegal dumping that takes place in my neighborhood, these illegal dumping people aren't. Black contractors ain't getting contracts like that. We
Hmm.
know the firms that are illegally dumping in our community. They're
Hmm.
not from here.
That's right.
They from way out. Now they may hire the black guy with a dump truck to dump
Hmm.
it, and he understands the roles of his mission. And he'll pick neighborhoods like mine. He'll pick my service drive,
Hmm.
the field across the street from me,
Hmm.
possibly even my field that I
Hmm.
own, that I'm
Hmm.
gardening on, because he
Hmm.
don't care. And they'll do stuff like that.
Right.
It's understood things that are done in business because you're exploiting everything you can to get a competitive advantage, to get a little bit more of a margin. This whole business ethics, you got to force businesses to be ethical, or they need to be, they businesses have to originate with an intentionality of being ethical. So as we look at Winston Morris and all these other cigarette companies transition into marijuana industry now, to believe that they're gonna just put marijuana in their marijuana cigarettes, you be foolish. Now, are they gonna probably partner with, like, maybe celebrities I like Snoop Dogg and like the most healthy veganish people, saying like, oh, these are actually the healthiest marijuana for you. Yeah, that campaign's gonna roll out because that looks good on paper. But
Right.
in real life, for me to believe Winston Morris is gonna do business other than how Winston Morris has always done business, and right now, that I would always debate this, because they'd be like, you see how the tobacco companies don't sell cigarettes in America, and you see the bans and all that stuff, they become way more ethical. I'm like,
Right.
no, they haven't, because in China right now, the age of the average person smoking cigarettes is as low as like 12.
Right.
And you can't tell me that that's not directly connected to American business. That's how ethical. So it's like, I guess it's ethical because American kids ain't smoking, but if you're really ethical, you don't want no kids smoking.
Right.
It's not ethical.
Right.
That's not what businesses do. Businesses are designed to make profit. You have to have ethics in the design of your profit generation model, and that's what makes sense. This is also the same argument I make with diversity, equity, and
Yeah.
inclusion, even though I do a lot of work around the diversity, equity, and inclusion, but I challenge a lot of people on it to say, what is making a company do it other than quote unquote saying we got black friends that work with us? Like, it has to connect to a profit. Without it connecting to profit, I don't see it being, I don't see the need for ethics to exist in business.
No, I agree with you 100%. I would kind of frame it in this type of way too, is that, um, like you said, the ethics of a business is to make profit. That is the ethic, right?
Yeah,
To make profit. And so I think what gets complicated is that when we look at the things that we kind of traditionally consider unethical, like, yo, you know what I'm saying, you using, like, this kid is 11 years old, you exploiting his labor, or something like that, or you're polluting the planet and so forth, right? Those things are only done like to make profit, right? And so the unethical acts that we see, right, is in pursuit of the profit.
definitely.
Right.
Joe Camel is in pursuit of the profit.
Exactly. And so really what the issue is, right, is it is when you organize society, or you organize the productive capacities of human beings in society, right, to, right, centrally and primarily make profit, because it'll lead to those things, right? Those things are structural. You can't get away from that, right? And I do agree with you. Like, then perhaps then you can tweak the system a bit, and uh, legislate it, and put in policies to say, right, if you do this, we're going to put you in jail, and we're going to do all these type of things. And so you can have, right, a regulated capitalism that then tries to stamp out as much unethical practice as possible. But what happens is, you would have to do that like across the board, right? You would have to do that across the board in ways that, right, span the multinational corporate universe, right? Because of profit itself, which is a structural component. So think about this, right? I want to make profit, right? I'm making cars, right? And I want to make profit, but somehow, right, I find a regulation like in my country where, I have to dispose of toxic waste somehow, in these type of ways, so it raises cost, right? But so and so, they don't have those type of regulations, right? And they get to produce the same car, right? Maybe even, right, a lower quality car, right, but at a much cheaper price, right, which then leads to higher profit margins, right? What's going to happen to my corporation? What's going to happen to me? I'm going to go out of business, right? I'm going to
Yeah.
go out of business because of the way in which I can't compete in the market, right? And so it's a way in which the unethical practices in the pursuit of profit then necessitates, it becomes an imperative that we all got to do it,
Yeah,
right? We
very
all
much
have
so.
to do it.
I mean, here's a more Detroit example, as we love pizza in Detroit. It was a point in time where the hot and ready $5 pizza was one day a week. Then they said let's do it every day of the week. The $5 pizza from Little Caesars has disrupted the pizza market, where a lot of the competition in the pizza industry has toppled and taking back shares, to the point I remember yesterday somebody, because I worked at Pizza Hut at one point in time, was like, damn, is Pizza Hut doesn't exist still? Because they couldn't compete with the margins of the quality. And like you say, as you know, I mean, we're from the hood. I mean, I've had a hot and ready before, but it's not the most quality pizza. But for the delivery at the value of $5, it meets the market and it swallows up so much. The expansion of what Little Caesars has done through using really cities like Detroit, Cleveland, Chicago, cities with black people, as like a test market of what a hot and ready can be done on a global scale, which now it has become one of the most competitive global pizza corporations, post Mike Illich's death, is a hell of a story to explore. All connected to, like we say, you meet in the market at a lay. It's like, okay, this ain't the best quality product, but it's at such a competitive price that we're going to get all our other competitors out the way. Hence, the other competitors try to have like their $6 pizza or maybe their $7 pizza, and they're losing share because it's like, damn, for them to make their $5 pizza, they're probably still profiting. Maybe, I think on average with food, you always want to make 300% profit margin, possibly somewhere between 150 300, but they're probably making like somewhere 300% profit margin on that. When the other pizza maker says let's do a $6 pizza, they're probably maybe selling at scale, meaning they're selling at how much it costs to deliver what that pizza is. So they're losing even on that day, sort of, to get into the market.
Right.
This is more of a, you may be able to follow because you see Little Caesar's model of what Theo just gave you, but it's interesting. And we see this in a lot of other industries. You know, as things get flat, entrants can give a different offering. You're right. If you have a competitive advantage where you can go to that country and illegally dump what that is to be illegally dumped, then people will go. They're going to, eventually, I'm going to have to build a factory in that country. No matter how much my family works here and all of that stuff, it's like because you're gonna get the ups on me eventually. You know what I'm saying? Like we look at, you know, a Whole Foods entering a market, and Whole Foods is another example of things. But you know, the person that shops at Whole Foods may go to Whole Foods maybe once a month, but they may be at Aldi's 4 times a month. That's a classic example of the way that the model was built, of how to compete in the market and what the market will deliver. Period. It's about the meeting the customer at where you can make the most profit, unless from the origination it has some type of ethic in whatever you're building, whatever the ethic of whatever you're starting. It has to start like that, because it's going to be hard to branch off and add in the concept of like, oh, we need diversity in this company. And oh, we need to have renewable energy. And oh yeah, we believe in recycling. And oh yeah, we also are going to believe in you know, animal rights. And oh yeah, we going to actually believe in whatever. All of that stuff is like, it's cute and it looks good, and we may put that in our nonprofit, quote unquote. That's the other thing. Our little package, we could care less. But one of the best things to do is just throw that into philanthropy.
Yeah, which happens a lot. Yeah, but you know the example you use too, like even the fact that Little Caesars creates a market, and they're meeting customers, and they're meeting the market at a certain point, and they're maximizing profit because of it.
Yep.
Right, they change the profit landscape, and what I'm saying is that the fact that they're making so much profit, off of that product, forces a Papa John's or forces a Domino's or forces somebody else to say, "Yo, we got to
less than quality product in our pizzas too."
But not only that, how do I get it to that price point?
Yes.
And so what wild shit do I got to do to get to that price point? And that's where the unethical, and so that's where the drive for profit. And so even when we think we win it, like, yo, I got, man, $5.
Papa John's got a $4 pizza.
Exactly.
The hell you eat?
Exactly. What the hell?
Direct diabetes.
Exactly.
Like,
just like Taco Bell, remember that meat slime that they had? Yeah, that's how the taco was 99 cents. Yeah, for sure. And so that becomes, the fact that we create a whole economy, that evolves around, yo, I just need to make more money. It inevitably leads to people getting fucked over.